In the beginning of March, nobody could have predicted the unprecedented events of the following weeks and months. United Methodists all around the country left church one Sunday, not realizing they wouldn't be returning for quite some time. Headline after headline documented the spread of COVID-19, and many focused on the closing of churches and the limitations on large gatherings. We began to realize the severity of this virus and the potential impact it could have on vulnerable members of our congregations. To keep their people safe, churches scrambled to bring worship into the home through streaming services, Facebook Live, conference calls, and other creative methods. Our churches rose to the occasion and overcame the challenging circumstances they faced those first few weeks. As the churches worked tirelessly to reimagine worship, the Conference Abundant Health team, led by Dr. Jessica Price, set out to develop guidelines for churches so that they could develop a safety plan. These guidelines coincided with CDC and PA Department of Health regulations and detailed the different reopening phases, sanitation best practices, and contact tracing tips. As more information became available, these guidelines were updated. In addition to these guidelines, Dr. Jessica Price and Bishop Cynthia Moore Cocoy recorded a COVID-19 conversation to emphasize the importance of the safety precautions. While the pandemic still isn't over, churches have slowly been returning to worship in new and creative ways. Members of the Abundant Health team spoke with a handful of church leaders to see how they've adjusted to the new normal.
What we discovered is that both of our sanctuaries, while they normally hold plenty of folks on Sunday morning, that once we socially distance, our numbers that we can fit inside the sanctuary safely drastically dropped. As in, we can safely hold about 12 people in either sanctuary for each church. And so we had to get a little bit more creative. And so we've been doing parking lot church with a radio transmitter. It works really well. Folks simply pull into our parking lot and tune to the radio station that we're using and are able to listen and see worship at the same time. So it's been a really great option for staying safe as well as continuing worship. We're also doing online worship as well.
I think that the first and foremost, of course, like everybody else, we had a downtime of a couple of months. And during that time, we stepped up our game on our recorded worship service. But when we opened again, Evangelical Church opened late June, and First Church opened early July, the 5th of July. That was the first time that we had resumed corporate worship. So in the run-up to that, both churches got their reopening team together, and in both cases, we laid in a supply of disposable masks, gloves, and ample supplies of hand sanitizer. We have at Evangelical, we restrict access to the building to one door that we can control on Sunday morning, so nobody can get past us. And likewise, over at First Church, we don't have that restricted, but we do have stations at every possible entrance and each station has the supplies that I just mentioned. We are social distancing in the congregation. Both churches have measured off spaces inside the pews, as well as establishing the perimeter, of being able to be 6 feet apart, both front and back, as well as to the sides. So we have every other or every third pew that's being used. So we're not doing anything, I think, that anybody else is doing, isn't doing, I should say. But it's been amazing how well and how quickly folks have adapted.
Yes, so, Roots of Faith is pretty unique. And a lot of our ministries are community based. And we got together with other churches in the community, other business leaders, and local government, and said, how do we help this community? So instead of Roots of Faith just jumping in and saying, this is what we're going to do because this is what we think everybody needs, we got everybody together and said, how do we all help this community? So we very quickly, formed a nice little ecumenical group of people and started feeding this community because we realized that people couldn't get out of their homes. We have a large population of seniors here and people who are shut-ins, disabled, chronic illness. So once we had those numbers, we realized that these are people that can't just walk up to the store now, and they can't just get in a van and go up to Giant Eagle. And a lot of those senior vans and shuttles were shut down anyway. So we started, an effort to find every senior and shut-in and disabled person we could find, and we delivered them groceries every single week. About 500 bags of groceries left Roots of Faith every Wednesday. So we're really excited about that. And I think that, we would get phone calls from senior citizens just in tears saying, you have no idea how much I look forward to this person just knocking on my door and saying, here's your groceries.
So what I did was I set up a weekly fellowship hour on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock and just threw it out there for, it was the same link every week and anybody could come on every single week. And we had sort of a regular crew of about 6 to 8 who came every single week. And then we had different people who would come once or twice and jump in just to see people and talk with people. And the only rule that we had was that, we're not going to talk about church stuff. We're not going to talk about church business or church decisions or, the future of the church or church finances or whatever. We're just going to talk about how life is going and how we're doing. And early on, it was people struggling to, make sense of everything and how long is this going to last and everything. And then it kind of evolved into just a time where people just shared life together and shared, the simple joys that they were able to experience through this time and the ways that they're still trying to, create a sense of normalcy and these kinds of things, or the ways that they're meeting challenges well, or the ways that they've seen other people reach out and in compassion. So it was kind of neat to be able to do that. We've stopped that for a little bit. We're taking a break from that for the summer because it's just so hard to keep that going when people are just doing different things for the summer. Last thing you want to do at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday when it's beautiful outside is sit inside on your computer talking to me. But we're going to start that back up in the fall. And I think it may end up being a permanent thing that we just are allowing people to just check in for up to an hour. They can come for 15 minutes if they want, and sometimes people do, but people can just pop in from their home, take a little bit of a break and say hi to some folks and join some folks. And the age range on that has been from, literally infants to, people in their 80s being on there. So it's really been kind of neat to be able to experience that kind of community in a new way.
What's been really funny is that we've had a lot of people from other churches come to our Zoom church. Okay. We've had a lot of people from other churches come to our Bible study. It's really been interesting. We're getting ready to start the book on, I think it's Lord Help Us Pray or Teach Us to Pray. We'll be starting that in a couple of weeks, and we've sent books out to 2 or 3 other people that are not with our church. So it's been surprising that we've had so much interaction with other people, as well as we have one lady from Kenya who comes to our Sunday service. Yeah. So that's so we're global now. We're out there. So, but it's been a lot of fun.
On behalf of the Conference Abundant Health team, I'd like to say thank you for for keeping our churches safe and healthy.